Welcome back to Beagle Eye Visions Internet. Hope you've been enjoying episode number 42 of the CubbyWhole podcast. I've been enjoying it. Can't wait to, this is definitely one of the ones I'm gonna go back and listen to. I love going back and rewatching these episodes. I think it's a lot of fun. Fallout is just hilarious to me, the way, like, the guts explode and the way people explode, and, like, once you get farther in the levels like I am, you just unlock these hilarious perks. Man, this game's just so much fun. Love it. 10 out of 10. Can't wait to keep grinding. All right, let's get some more knowledge and tear the gunners apart. Let's go.
And he's going to give us the details of what the checkerboard floor means and what it symbolically means. So, go ahead. Give us a little breakdown.
Okay, yes. So, the checkerboard floor is one of the most important symbols to the initiate, for it is used in almost all ritualistic ceremonies and the evolution of consciousness. This is because the black and white symbols, which stand for many things like duality, light and dark, right and wrong, or base consciousness, are symbolic of the checkerboard floor. Base consciousness is important because it is where all other states of mind arise and start from. It is all about choice. This is about the choice to either climb the ladder and ascend or remain on the floor of the temple in ignorance and in unknownness, or in a state of internal duality. This is about building on firm foundations of principle, natural law, and morality. So if we look at this, trestle board or this tracing board, we can see that there are many tools, which I'm not going to explain all the tools here today. We can go into that in the future shows. But these tools are what we build with, and that's why they're on the ground. This is where the work is to be done. It's to be done on the ground. Right? Because, yes, we have to ascend, but we also have to keep our spirit firmly anchored to the ground. And more often than not, you will find an anchor symbolic of this in Freemasonry. In the background, beside the middle pillar, on the left and right side of the middle pillar, you have two ashlars. One ashlar, which is imperfect, and then the other one, which has been perfected. The ashlar represents this process of perfecting yourself, coming out of darkness and into light. It is about building a better self. Now, it's not about becoming truly perfect, because perfection is ultimately an illusion. But what it is about is smoothing over the rough edges, such as it's shown in the back of this picture with these two ashlars. One ashlar is really rough looking, just like a rock that's been pulled out of the ground, and the other one has been smoothed over to create a very seemingly perfect square. And we can look at this as our minds and our emotions and our actions being perfected or being built into a better form. And this is our ability to evolve ourselves. This is our ability to create something better for the world by building ourselves up. And it all starts on the checkerboard floor, or the floor of the house. So there's a lot to the checkerboard floor, and it has been used subversively by dark occultists because most people are stuck on the checkerboard floor. They have never come out of it. So, like I said, the meaning of this is duality, initiation, foundation, choice, but it also means unconsciousness, ignorance, immorality, a schism, and it also means slavery. So there's positive and negative uses of the Masonic checkerboard floor, obviously. So it's dualistic, so it's positive and negative. One place that we see the checkerboard floor being used negatively very highly is also in Hollywood. We see a lot of these people who are victims of mind control using symbolic associative means of the checkerboard floor. Sometimes they're dressed all in checkerboard, and there's a slide that you can follow along with what I'm talking about. So you find it in pop music, you find it in, at the red carpet, you find it, let's say, like one of the images on the far left here, we have Pink, who has a checkerboard floor leg on her left side, and then she's blindfolded, and the initiate goes through this ritual where he has to have one of his pants legs pulled all the way up to the knee, and he has to be blindfolded, which is the ritual of the initiate or Hiram Habith, and his process into enlightenment, because it represents that you cannot see and that you're in a ruffled state, that you haven't, built yourself and smoothed yourself out yet. You haven't, aesthetically started to work on yourself, and metaphysically and spiritually you have not worked on yourself at that level. So you haven't gained the knowledge of morality, the knowledge of right and wrong. And this is why they start you out in this ruffled state, or this, state of discombobulation, you could say. But yeah, we see this a lot in Hollywood, where it's being used not only as triggers for people who have MK Ultra mind control techniques being done on them for altars, but it's also used to associate symbolically and subversively, but also just subliminally, about these aspects of Freemasonry, about the aspects of right and wrong, about the aspects of light and dark, So you can see this all over the place. But one place that we really find this symbolism being used is on the caps of police officers, where they have the checkerboard floor wrapped around the temple of the police officer.
Yeah, it's crowned.
That's right. It is crowned. And it's the crown checkerboard floor, being that the board is now on the head, where it should not be located. So it's binding the head of the individual. And what this means is that this individual is in a state of ignorance, of not knowing right from wrong, not knowing light from dark, not knowing principle from, immorality. So this is the dark use of the checkerboard floor. There's no better example of how the dark occultists are mocking people. This is dark occult mockery right here. And I mean, if you look at this image as well, you have the pentagonal symbol of the inverted pentagram placed right over their third eye as well. And then also you have one with the double square, which also represents binding and slavery. And we'll get into both of those symbols probably in the next episode. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to the checkerboard floor, but it is really important to understand that, it is the place of initiation. This is where we start from. I was on the floor at one point, and I climbed the ladder, and then, I gained the knowledge, and we climbed the ladder over and over. It's not just like you climb it up one time and then come back down, You do this up and down. It's a rhythmic process. You go up and down like a tempo, which is interesting because that correlates to the word temple, because you have temp in there, which is rhythm, and then L, the tempo of L, the rhythm of God. So I find that very interesting, that the temple, which is the mind, has the rhythm of God, the rhythm of electricity, the rhythm of movement. So there's a lot to that.
Right. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the police officer hat. I think the only places I've seen that are in Britain and Chicago with the checkerboard floor on the crown, which is very interesting in and of itself. But to really express what that also means is, if there is a checkerboard floor on your crown, which is, above your eye or your eyes, it represents that, something that's not in this trestle board is a casket, which is normally under the floor. So what it's really saying, it's mocking them and saying that their eye or their, sleeping self is resting in the casket. And So a police officer who wears one of those is a perfect symbol of what a walking dead is, or, someone who is simply unbegun, and definitely someone who's very immoral. So, but yeah, you really broke it down well with the checkerboard floor, and I just wanted to add a few things in there. If you're not awake to the checkerboard floor and you don't understand it, then it's you have to understand it's about like you being a pawn or a game piece that's being played on a chessboard of life by the hidden powers, like, the dark occult or the sorcerers that have this power differential with this knowledge. And they know no one really understands this information. They know most people don't understand these symbols. So basically, those who know our mind and how it works know how to control, the people by hiding or occulting this knowledge to, basically, like I said, have a power differential over our minds and, the unenlightened masses. So looking at the archetypal pillars or columns, these symbolize the polarities and aspects of the human brain. And on the left is the pillar of strength, serenity, and action. This is the sacred masculine pillar with the sun above it, which is also called the pillar of Jachin. This pillar is the light pillar, the positive yang polarity. Then on the right, we see the pillar of Boaz, which symbolizes beauty or emotion, which has the sacred feminine aspect to it. And it is also the dark pillar and the negative yin polarity. And by negative and positive, it doesn't mean good or bad when relating them to, the gender principles of the self. It doesn't mean, one is better than the other. I'm talking about the inherent nature of the material world. Light is the penetrative force, which is a positive energy, and the dark is receptive or submissive of that force, as it is negative energy. And right above the pillar, the right pillar, we see the moon with 7 stars. And moon is lunar, which is always associated with the feminine energy. It's really important to keep in mind that every person contains these 2 principles within him or her. The middle pillar with the W, or pillar of wisdom, also known as the Ionic pillar, or Jacob's ladder, represents the way through. It's about unity, or the middle, or balance. This pillar is erected when the sacred feminine and sacred masculine unify. What's known as the Sushumna and the rising Kundalini, or the alchemical wedding, which fills the whole body with divine light. This creates the sacred male child, or enlightenment. The W represents wisdom, which is a sacred masculine expression combined with sacred feminine, creating a synthesis of true care that manifests the right or correct and moral actions in the world. So wisdom is the application of knowledge through understanding. And so this means the sacred child is always masculine because it is the active principle, which is balanced with the positive emotion and intuition of the sacred feminine and the thoughts of the sacred masculine. So thought, emotion, and action. Sacred masculine, sacred feminine, and then the active action principle, the child. So the concept of these pillars can be traced back to the ancient civilizations of antiquity. So Kabbalistically, if you understand the science of Kabbalah, the names of the two pillars mean, in strength shall my house be established. So in other words, to build a strong mind through will, care, and the great work. So remember, this is all allegorical. It's a sacred science. So taking any of this literal reveals nothing about our inner self. Was there anything else you wanted to add in, Brandon?
Yes, I wanted to add in that the all-seeing eye is properly placed in this trestle board over top of the ionic pillar. And obviously, you have the green language of ion, being that the eye is on, and then IC, so ionic is ion IC, and it's properly placed as the highest of the high. And what I mean by this as well, when I say properly placed, it's not being placed over top of the sun or in a left brain imbalance, being over top of the pillar of Jacquin on the left side, or the pillar of strength. That correlates back to what I was speaking about when I was talking about the stellar mythos, the all-seeing eye, and the gavel, because the gavel is, the all-seeing eye. It is Polaris. It is the singular point that does not move of Polaris, where all other constellations circle around it. So this is very profound because it shows the stellar mythos still intact in this trestle board. And another thing I would like to add is that you called it a carpet. Well, it is a carpet, but it's also known as the magic carpet. It's the carpet that can fly you to all places of the planet, or all places of everywhere in the universe, of yourself, the inner universe, the YOU-verse. Because the universe is not just the external universe, it's also the universe within yourself. So just add the Y and O in front of that word universe, and then you understand that. So this is the perfect depiction of the archetypal language of the self and the universe itself. So I just wanted to add that in.
Yeah, this is all part of light masonry, the true essence of Freemasonry. And I like what you added in about the flying carpet, because it is a magical carpet. It's about lifting off of the ground and going anywhere and everywhere you want to go within the self, and that is sacred science. It's like you really have to understand that this is something that I spoke on in past shows about the higher imagination. This takes the imagination to do internal science work. And that is what Freemasonry really is all about. And I wanted to say, I wanted to speak on the three beings that are in this photo, in this trestle board. There are three initiates on the ladder, and that's very symbolic and important to pay attention to. These are three aspects of self. We see one of the initiates on the middle of the ladder, dressed in green, dangling a key by a thread. And it's important to know why she is wearing green and where she is positioned. Green is the Anahata heart chakra. So when we understand the chakra system, we understand that green is in the middle. So it's the color of balance. When we understand the visible spectrum of color, green is in the middle. In nature, green is the prominent color. And in the world, care is dangling by a thread. So symbolically, that key grants us the entrance through the Stargate to the higher echelon of self. And the higher ladder rung, you have to have the key, the care to go up the ladder. So It's about having the key to go up to find balance and illuminate the eye that you see in the middle there. The third eye, that's what that's corresponding to. And something that we've touched on in the past shows is the Hermetic principles. And if you read the Kybalion and you understand the Hermetic principles, this will give you all the keys to understanding this trestle board for sure. Because it's like those principles are the tools that we have to use in order to understand this symbol of symbols. And looking at the ladder, this represents the balance of synthesis or combination of the left and right pillar, the left and right brain. The ladder goes from the dark side of the board to the place of light or enlightenment. So the bottom right side of the board is darkness and the upper left is light. And the whole point of this board is going from dark to light in the mind. And that's really it. So looking at the bottom left and right of the middle pillar, we see two ashlars. And I know Brandon already covered the ashlars to a degree, but I wanted to add a couple things in there. So those are the cubed looking stones. So to the left, we see the rough ashlar, which is a stone in a rude and natural shape, unformed and unpolished. And basically, this stone needs to be squared, fitted, adjusted, and hewed and carved with a 24-inch gauge and common gavel to become the perfect ashlar, which is what we see on the right. This symbolizes transformation from the natural state of being in an ignorant and or nescient lower self to then becoming a raised and stronger balanced mind intellectually. A perfect ashlar helps make a perfected temple. Plus, their placement symbolizes balance, like the dots of the yin and yang. So, for example, there is always a dot of yin within yang and vice versa. So, since we're talking about tools, I know we kind of said we weren't going to, but we're already doing it, so we're almost through this. We're talking about tools, and the 24-inch gauge on the rough ashlar symbolizes time well employed. So, going from the rough to the perfected is the time. It is the great work. And the common gavel is of the purification of the heart. So the level at the base of the masculine active pillar means action must be in balance. And then the plum leaned up against the feminine pillar symbolizes to govern our emotions, to keep emotions upright or erect. The square pointing up means overcoming our base nature, our animalistic nature, coming out of beast or base consciousness, moving towards morality. Also keep in mind the golden color of the tools, which represent the necessary pieces of light that we'll need on our path through the dark. So looking at this piece as a reflection, we see the number 7 in reverse from the bottom of the ladder to the sun, connecting the eye and on over to the moon. The number 7 is a vast topic that we're definitely going to really, spend a lot of time on. It's just going to be in all these shows, and it should definitely be studied in depth. And the whole image is like that of a book. That's what really has to be understood here. It's like an encyclopedia of esoteric knowledge. And I want to stress that, this has nothing to do with, a secret group of people or some hierarchy. This is the sacred science of esoteric Freemasonry. And this board isn't something you just completely understand overnight. And I've ruminated on this board for a long time, and I keep finding things forever, it seems like. And to be clear, this board is a tool of tools, which are neither good or bad. They are used to delve into the inner psyche and the inner nature of the true self to help us understand our human psychology better. But it's about helping us become sovereign, really. But like any tool, the wielder of these tools can use them for good or bad, for good or ill, So also, just one more thing I wanted to add, if you wanted to add something, Brandon. The entered apprentice is really the entered apprentice, meaning buried. One whose spirit is deadened and in a state of unconsciousness, needing to come out of, the west, the tomb, to make the journey towards light. I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, I'd like to say that for people who haven't caught up with our previous episodes, West means death in the ancient Egyptian mythology because the sun sets in the west, and that's why West is placed underneath of the checkerboard floor here. And so what Nathan is referencing to there is the coffin underneath the board, which would be the sun in the coffin. The sun represents the soul, so we're trying to raise up out of the coffin and into the light of knowledge. The other thing I wanted to mention before we get off here is the 3 initiates. I'm glad you brought those up. I'm glad you explained the key. The first thing I like to say is that they are facing downwardly. They're facing towards you. And what this means is they're actually coming down the ladder. They're actually coming down, and they even seem to be sitting on that. So they've already went up and come back down. They're bringing the knowledge of the higher mysteries back down for the people. And if you look pretty closely, there is an anchor as well in this image, which also symbolizes being grounded. So that's part of that. But also the key. The key in this is a single-headed axe. So this is the proper use of a key. So the key is the gavel, but it's in the single-headed axe form. The original form of a key is actually a double-headed key. So the first keys that were ever made were double-headed. So that also shows the evolution of the implements of the physical key going from a double-headed axe and double power into a single-headed axe. So yeah, I just wanted to add those couple little things in there. I think you did a wonderful job of explaining the tools and everything in this board. And like you said, there's so much knowledge in this. You can continue to bring out more and more knowledge, and I'm sure we will go more in depth with this tracing board and the other tracing boards as well in the future.
Right. Yeah, I appreciate that. And this board, we're definitely going to spend a whole show on this board and the other 2 degrees, which are past and entered. And these degrees, these boards, these trestle boards, entered, past, and raised, are very, very, very important trestle boards to not only discover, but then to study, and then to discover what they are telling you from within. You bring the knowledge to these boards to discover something very, very powerful within yourself. And we're going to do the best that we can to extrapolate on these arcane ideas, because if you're really serious about this, then, it really has to be studied thoroughly, and you have to take this work very serious, and it can do no harm other than, you do become more responsible for this type of information. But that's a beautiful thing, because then you start to become more human. You start to become more sovereign. You start to understand that living harmoniously is what's going to end lots of the war that's going on. And, that's one of the very reasons that I even went into all this, is because I'm not for war. I am definitely a being who will respond with self-defense, because that's part of who we are. That's our inherent principle within ourselves. That's our inherent behavior that we have to respond to protect ourselves. And it is so vital that we learn this and be serious about life. You know, I mean, yeah, like don't take life so serious and have fun and enjoy yourself, sure. But, you know, also take life serious and get into the studies, because this is what's going to essentially, you know, give you the carpet to go fly off into the universe and, you know, really experience the most beautiful things that, you know, authority can never grant you in man. You know, this is something that you have to discover on your own. So I want to end this show with a quote from Albert Churchward. And, you know, we've mentioned his name many times on the show, so I don't really need to say too much more about the guy as far as like how important his work is. But one of the quotes he says is, "If Freemasonry is not to be a failure, the brethren must follow and practice those teachings outside the lodge that they are taught inside. It will not be sufficient to subscribe to the institutions and be a quote-unquote good fellow. Freemasonry is more than that. It is the old true religion of the world, without dogmas or sects, and to preserve Freemasonry from failure, it must be acted on and taught as such in our lives." So ruminate on that.
That's a powerful quote. I'm glad you brought in a quote from him.
Yeah, man. I mean, he is one of the ultimate Freemasons that has really changed my life as far as understanding Freemasonry, as esoteric Freemasonry, and the, you know, the ancient Egyptian hero cults. So it is very important. He is definitely an important brethren who has worked much of his life to bring forth some of the most crucial knowledge that anybody could ever discover, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I can't agree anymore, 100%.
Well, is there anything else you wanted to add, Brandon?
Nope, I'm good for this episode.
Well, I really appreciate you doing this with me. And, a lot of people don't understand why you and I do a show. I mean, I think they kind of do, but, just to be very clear, Brandon and Doug and I, we all have this knowledge that we want to share, and we are aligned in our principles. We understand basically the same things, not because, it's a groupthink mentality, because that is definitely not what it is. We're aligned in principle. We're aligned in nature. We're aligned in morality. Therefore, what we are trying to express to people through here, this is a form of spiritual self-defense. And also it's we want to share work with people because it's the right thing to do. This work is hard to find, and we're trying to aggregate it together and expedite this type of information, so that way the serious student has a place to come and see something condensed in a way that helps them understand the importance of it, so that they can go do the work themselves and see that there really is something special about this type of knowledge. Yes. So I just wanted to share that. So this episode is at its end, guys. We've definitely had an awesome time explaining all this, and we hope you found clarity and value in this show. And you can find more shows, presentations, and news at CubbyWhole.com. That's CubbyWhole.com. Plus, Douglas Martin's and Brandon's and my work is now up on the OneGreatWorkNetwork.com. That's OneGreatWorkNetwork.com. CubbyWhole.com. Also, please make sure to keep your eyes out for the next couple of shows, as Brandon and I will go further into the methods of manipulation and possibly another guest on as well. And as for now, a new show comes out every Friday at 12 p.m. Pacific time, so stay tuned for more. And if you have any questions regarding the topics for these shows or the Seed for Growth event, please email us at cubbyhole@mail.com. That's cubbyhole@mail.com. Also, any donations are appreciated, as anything that's given will go directly to the CubbyWhole website. Just hit the donation button on the website and it's set up pretty easy to operate from there. Okay, so I'm your host, Nate Cap. Thank you for listening, and remember, do no harm, defend truth, and keep transcending dogma.
All right, another amazing episode. That was episode number 42 of the CubbyWhole podcast. Like he said, be sure to check out the One Great Work Network. It is an amazing website, a fantastic, amazing, incredible website. Every content creator on there puts in so much effort into their work. They have so much passion for what they do, and you can tell when you go view their work, you can tell they put so much time into it. It's very top notch. It's very professional. It looks amazing. Like, this work really should be in academia. It should be taught in colleges, but of course that would actually mean they're trying to teach morals, of course, and that's not what they're trying to teach at all. Anyways, thanks again if you made it this far. Mark Passio is the next episode that's next. I'm going back to Far Harbor for Mark Passio. I'm going to kill all the sea creatures. Mark Passio is an absolute legend. He's basically the curator of the One Great Work Network. He gets all the content creators. I'm very excited for that episode. I'm so excited. I'm gonna go straight to Far Harbor when I start that one, so be sure to stay tuned. Like I said, thanks again if you made it this far. Stay tuned and stay golden, everybody.